If you live in a hut like this, you don't have running water. Your goats and your sheep and your chickens, they all sleep in the hut with you. And you can see during the rainy season what it looks like. So in Karamoja, we've got two seasons basically. You've got the dry season and you've got the rainy season. So in the dry season, which is about January and February, it gets really hot, like up to 130 to 140 degrees. But there's no humidity, so it's just a different kind of heat. But it's really hot, really dry. And then you have the rainy season, which can be anywhere from like 6 months to 9 months. And you can have torrential downpours basically every day during that period. And so for these guys living in the village, during that rainy season, when they step out their front door, they can have no mud to a couple of inches to even a couple of feet of mud and manure. So again, really basic health concepts, sanitation, like washing your hands, boiling your water, etc., are really important in the villages in which we work. So this is just kind of a funny picture because I mentioned that they don't have running water in their homes. And so where do they get their water from? And historically it was that they would get it from any water source they could find. So if it's a puddle outside their front door, great. If it's a seasonal river that's there during the rainy season, they'll use that. And those water sources are used for bathing, for their animals, for drinking, and for cooking. So again, really basic things like having clean water, boiling your water, are really important to be taught to the Karamojong people. So this is, again, just kind of a funny picture because these boys are out bathing in public in one of these seasonal rivers. And so, you know, it's great. They're actually using soap. They're lathering up even though they don't have any hair on their head. And, but then they're rinsing off with this muddy and dirty water. So it really doesn't work that well. Okay. The battery works now, so we got it. Okay, so this is what the cows look like. So the cows in Karamoja are very different than the cows we were used to here in the U.S. Most of the cows are only about that tall. They have a little horn on their backs. I mess that up every time. They have a hump on their back. They, again, are very small, but these are the prized possessions for the Karamojong people. So what about the people of Karamoja? What do they do? What's their occupation? So for the men and boys in Karamoja, they've got basically two main things. So for the boys, traditionally they were the shepherds. So from the time they're about 5 years old till about 18 or 20 or whenever they get married, they're the shepherds. So every day during that 15-year period, you wake up at 6:30 or whenever it gets to be light in the morning until 7 o'clock when it's dark at night. That's your life. You follow the cows around all day. So they have the really exciting lifestyle of being shepherds. Then, when you become a man, traditionally or historically, the work was to be the warriors. And so not only would they go on the cattle raids to steal the cows, but they were responsible for protecting the villages. And so, there might be wars among the different tribes or whatever. But nowadays, in Uganda, it's basically a peaceful, a relatively stable country. And so there's very little intertribal warfare. And so most of the men, basically, they lost their jobs. So nowadays, the men of Karamoja, they literally will sit around for 7 or 8 hours a day just talking, politics, how many cows you have, how many wives you have, things like that. So again, most of the men aren't doing a whole lot in Karamoja. Which means the women get to do everything else. So whether it's raising the children, preparing the meals, building the homes, doing the gardenings, collecting the water, they do it all. So that means the girls have to learn how to do all of those things. So again, maybe around the age of 5, 6 years old, they're going to start learning how to do all of those things. One of the most important things that they do is they have to be able to carry things. And so a lot of their supplies, their water, etc. aren't there right in the village. And so they've got to be able to carry it all home. So they carry everything on their heads. So you'll see these little girls out, they've got to practice to be able to do this. They might just have 1 cup of water. They might just have 1 tree branch, something like that. So that by the time they're a full-grown woman, they have to be able to carry huge loads of things on their head. So for example, if you need water, thankfully nowadays there's various organizations that have come in and have started to drill wells. They call them boreholes. And so a lot of the villages have much better, cleaner water than just using those local puddles. However, these wells, these boreholes are not in every village. And so you've got to hike over to wherever the borehole is, you've got to hand pump it all, and then you've got to get it home. And again, everything is carried on their heads. So they go from carrying a cup of water when they're little to these huge jugs of water when they're full-grown women. You'll see these women carrying literally a full tree on their head. They'll have 200 pounds of grain on their head, have a baby strapped on their back, and 2 big jugs of water or oil or something in their arms. So in Karamoja, the women are the stronger people. What about their dress? What do they look like? For the men and the boys, traditionally it was blankets, or these sheets they call them. And again, traditionally that was all that they would wear. So we're very thankful for these Western nations that send shipments of secondhand clothing over. So instead of just wearing a blanket like this, they'll have shorts or trousers or something on underneath. Nowadays though, there's kind of a shift in the style. So instead of just wearing these nice plaid blankets, you know, I'm from a Scottish background, so I like the plaid. They've really taken up wearing big bedspreads. So they're these huge blankets, they're really fuzzy, brightly colored, and they've got this huge flower right in the center. And so you've got these warrior dudes wrapped up in their fuzzy flower blankets, and it's like 120 degrees outside. But there's even a new thing that they've started to do. So, again, it used to just be these nice plaid blankets. Well, I mentioned how most of the men, they sit around and don't do much of anything except talk. Well, there's a few things that some of the younger guys have started to do. And so instead of just sitting around, some of the young men have taken... Boy, I don't know what's going on, but it's not working. Some of the young men have taken up crocheting. So you've got these guys... This is one of the jobs that they can do. They're wrapped up in their fuzzy flower blankets, and they wear Dr. Seuss hats. So, again, a new style among the young guys of Karamoja. What about the women? The women like lots and lots of color. So the traditional dress would be a skirt made out of many different colors of fabric sewn together in strips. So lots of colors in their skirt. They'll wear a blanket like this to strap their baby on. Again, many different colors of blankets, and then lots and lots of beads. So you can see how the women really like lots of color. So this is a termite mound. We've got termite mounds all around in Eastern Africa. Some of them can literally be 8 or 9 feet tall and actually have millions of termites inside of them.
So we live and work with the Orthodox Uganda Mission, and we are not there by ourselves. We have an entire team to work with, which makes it a blessing. It's a really good thing to have a team to work with. That means that the responsibility doesn't fall solely to Jim and I, and we're really thankful for the other aspects of the mission as well. So we have 2 pastors and their families who are there working with us, and so I'm going to just introduce them to you by way of picture. This is Pastor Alfred Carrico and his wife Lori, and they have 5 children. This is Kate, Emily, Maria, James, and Joshua. And this is Josiah, Emily's husband, and Zach, Kate's husband. So the Carricos are currently on furlough as well, traveling and speaking to churches and telling them about the work that they've been doing. But we're really thankful for Al's ministry of the word in Karamoja. He's a vital part of the mission as well as his entire family. This has been quite a year of transition for their families, so they would appreciate your prayers. Kate and Emily were married about a month apart from each other this spring. Kate graduated from university, and then Maria started university this week. So when they come back to the field in January, Lord willing, it'll just be James and Joshua and then Al and Lori. So they'd really appreciate your prayers as they transition through all of these different life events. We also have Pastor Dave Auken, and then his wife Sunshine, and their 3 children, Caleb, Megan, and Jacob. And they are currently in Uganda, kind of holding down the fort with one of the other families and a few individuals. So while many of us have been gone on furlough this summer, they've had an extra load of responsibilities to keep up with. And so we're really thankful for their willingness to do that and their capability in doing that. But they would really appreciate your prayers for energy as they continue in that. This is the crested crane. It is the national bird of Uganda, and it shows up in various places like on their flag. So if you look at the table up here, the tablecloth is the flag of Uganda. The center is the crested crane. It's also the name of their football team, or their soccer team as we know it, and Jim is sporting their jersey. This is the Nile River. As I said, we have to drive across this to get back to where we stay. And if you come and visit us, we might be able to sneak away and go whitewater rafting on the Nile River, which is class 5 and 6 rapids, so it's legitimate rapids. This is the where Jim and I spend most of our time, at the Akisio and Ayesu Presbyterian Clinic. And I think Jim mentioned already, that's the compassion of Jesus in the Karamojong language. So this is what our clinic looks like currently. As I said, we're in the process of building a new clinic, but the clinic was built 10 years ago with the idea that it would be a mobile clinic. So the backbone of our clinic is shipping containers. So you've seen the 20-foot shipping containers on the back of a tractor trailer carting goods around. Well, we have made a clinic out of that. So the patients come through this front waiting area and are registered, and then they go to one of the shipping containers wherever they need to go. So what does it look like when you have a clinic in a shipping container or in several shipping containers? Well, it's really great when people like Bob Wright, our missionary deacon, and others get a hold of them and cut windows out of them and add running water and solar power and that sort of thing, so it makes it much more easy to see patients in a shipping container. So this is an example of one of the offices. And this is what our pharmacy looks like. So we have drug storage on one side, and then we have drug dispensing on the other side. This is what the laboratory looks like on the far side there. But then why are we building a new clinic? Well, part of it is that this was just meant to be a mobile or temporary solution to a clinic. And part of it is because of the rainy and dry seasons, the ground shifts dramatically. So if you don't have a proper foundation, the ground cracks quite a bit. So this structure is just cracking kind of in half. So it's like there's a fault line going down the middle. So from that front door that I showed you where people come in, all the way across the clinic and to the back, there's this crack in the floor, and it even was cracking the wall, so we had to knock the wall down so that it wouldn't fall on someone and injure someone. So one of our nurses has to see patients in an office that is part blue tarp and part cracked wall, so it's not very great for patient privacy. We also have some small little critters like this, just a little baby snake, only about 8 feet long. It's a baby python.
So Jenny and I get to work with 16 African staff in the clinic. 14 of them are from Uganda and 2 of them are from Kenya. And so I'm going to mention 3 prayer requests for the work there in the clinic. But overall, we really enjoy the work. We have great relationships with the clinic staff. We enjoy working with them. But some of the prayer requests are, number 1, if you would pray for Jenny and I, as we're the bosses, we're the managers of the clinic. And so neither Jenny nor myself have had official administrative or managerial training. But that's at least half of what we're doing each day in the clinic, is overseeing the work of the clinic there. And so please pray for us that we would be godly leaders, godly examples as we're overseeing the clinic. And then secondly, but much more importantly, most importantly for the work in the clinic, is that sometimes it's really easy, often it's really easy to forget about why we're there. So you get wrapped up, you're seeing patients, you're doing the paperwork, and you forget about the fact that you're there as a Christian or as a missionary. And so if you would just pray for us, that we would always have it in our mind, have that being our mindset, that we're there to adorn the work of the gospel. So if the most important work, the main reason why we're there as an entire mission is to spread the gospel, well, how does the medical work, how does the clinic support that work or adorn the work of the gospel? So you can pray for us in general, but you can also pray for the entire mission as we think about this question. It's really great to have Pastor Al, Pastor David there, because they can come over to the clinic basically every day. For example, they can come over and lead clinic staff devotions at the beginning of each day. They'll come over and they'll work with some of the clinic staff to do things like teaching how to deal with end-of-life care, how to pray with patients, etc. But then they can also come over every day and actually preach to the patients while they're waiting to be seen in the clinic. Jenny and myself, we can also be, as we're seeing the patients, we can be praying with them. We can be inviting them to church on Sundays. But again, please just pray for us overall as we're thinking about what does it mean to have a medical work adorning the work of the gospel. And then thirdly, if you would pray for peace in the clinic. So again, overall, we have great relationships among the clinic staff. We really enjoy working with them. But among those 16 staff members, there's 5 different tribes represented there in the clinic. And so you've got very different cultural, ethnic, spiritual, educational, etc. backgrounds all working together inside the same clinic. And so while overall they get along very well, if there are any problems, then often what happens is people kind of retreat into their tribal background and there is tension that develops. So for example, you've got this guy. His name is Leopold Godfrey. Godfrey is a Karamojong man who works with us in the clinic as a translator. And he's a Karamojong